Recap: Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao, Chapter 1061, Chapter Ma. In the silent depths of that crimson land, where killing intent gathered like storm clouds over a battlefield long forgotten by time, Ling Han slowed his steps, his gaze sharpening as he sensed something profoundly unusual. The aura that lingered here, it stirred a memory. Within him, the Ashura Demon Emperor trembled faintly, his consciousness rippling like mist disturbed by an unseen wind. This murderous aura, it reminded him of himself. Both he and this presence lacked true physical form. Both existed in a strange half-spiritual state, neither fully alive nor entirely dead. In ages past, the Asura Demon Emperor had been cleaved into 8 separate fragments, yet he had endured, something that would have annihilated even beings far stronger than him. And yet, for all his resilience, he had one fatal weakness: spiritual attacks. If an opponent's divine sense surpassed his own, they could wound him deeply, bypassing all his defenses with terrifying precision. And this murderous aura was exactly that kind of enemy, a force that struck not the body, but the soul. A choking sensation overtook him. Though he existed as a formless mist, he gagged instinctively, his essence quivering violently. Yet what could he possibly vomit in such a state? After a moment of struggle, he hastily retreated into the puppet wolf's body, his voice trembling as he spoke. "Master, this aura, it is extremely troublesome to deal with." Ling Han's expression remained calm, his eyes steady like still water. "You need to temper your divine sense further," he said simply. The words were light, but the truth behind them was heavy. Techniques that refined the divine sense were rarer than rare, treasures hoarded almost exclusively by demon masters. Ordinary cultivators could only increase the strength of their divine sense as their cultivation rose. But to toughen it, to temper it like steel, that was an entirely different matter. It was much like body cultivation. Though body arts were hard to come by, there were still paths to obtain them. But techniques that could truly enhance the body's innate resilience, those were almost mythical. The Asura Demon Emperor dared not argue aloud. He could only grumble inwardly. Yet even as he did, curiosity burned within him. His master possessed a body that defied destruction. And now, it seemed, even his divine sense was terrifyingly resilient. What kind of technique was he cultivating? What kind of path was he walking? Was he attempting to defy the heavens themselves? The human and the wolf pressed onward. Around them, strands of murderous aura drifted and gathered, converging toward unseen centers. As the density increased, these currents of killing intent began to condense, taking shape. Soon a humanoid figure formed. Without warning, it charged. Though it emitted no sound, its attack pierced directly into the mind. A silent scream that churned the sea of consciousness, stirring waves of chaos and pain. Ling Han's eyes flashed coldly. "A clash of divine senses?" he muttered. "Then let us see whose is stronger." In that instant, he unleashed the 7-kill subduing soul technique. A formless strike erupted, colliding with the humanoid aura. Pooh! The figure shattered instantly, exploding into fragments like mist struck by lightning. Though the scattered pieces struggled to gather once more, they faltered, as though something essential had been stripped away. They could no longer reform. Ling Han understood at once. The strength of these entities lay in their divine sense, and their weakness lay there as well. If one's divine sense surpassed theirs, they could be destroyed with ease. With a casual wave of his hand, Ling Han dispersed the remaining fragments into nothingness. Behind him, the Ashura Demon Emperor's eyes gleamed with admiration. "Master, your brilliance is unmatched," he exclaimed. "Across heaven and earth, past and future, there has never been anyone like you. Not one of the strongest, but the strongest." Ling Han chuckled softly. "If I am so formidable," he replied, "then as my subordinate, you should not be lacking either." He gestured forward. "I'll leave the rest to you." The Asura Demon Emperor puffed out his chest, ready to accept, then immediately froze ahead. Another figure had formed. But this one was far larger. Their earlier encounters had taught them well. The greater the size of these humanoid forms, the denser the murderous aura within them, and the more terrifying their strength. This one, if it released a single roar, the Ashura Demon Emperor wouldn't merely be forced out of the puppet wolf, he would be torn apart entirely. "Yes, yes, master," he stammered, his courage collapsing in an instant. "No, wait, master, save me." Though he now possessed the puppet wolf's body and strength at the consummate level, it meant nothing before these beings. They were his natural nemesis. They attacked the divine sense directly, rendering physical strength useless. Ling Han considered briefly. He attempted to draw the murderous aura into the Black Tower, but found it impossible. Though not living beings, these entities carried martial intent, much like God tools. Without erasing that intent, they could not be absorbed, and if the martial intent were removed, the aura itself would dissipate entirely. The Black Tower offered no solution here. Thus, Ling Han stepped forward. His 7-kill subduing soul technique surged once more, striking the humanoid aura's head. Boom! The head exploded. Yet the rest of the body remained intact. Before their eyes, the headless figure grasped its own remains, tearing them away, and then, as murderous aura surged upward, a new head formed upon its shoulders. This thing could rebuild itself at will. It had no fixed form. Even if shattered into dozens of pieces, it could reassemble. Ling Han narrowed his eyes. This one is stronger. He attacked again, this time combining his divine flame patterns with the soul technique. Both methods proved effective. The battle that followed was fierce. Every strike from the humanoid aura carried a piercing spiritual force, stabbing into the mind like countless needles. Even Ling Han, with his formidable divine sense, felt waves of discomfort crash over him. The fight dragged on. Only after considerable effort did he finally annihilate the entity completely. The aftermath left him mentally strained, as though he had just fought a powerful cultivator to the death. The Ashura Demon Emperor wasted no time. Master is unparalleled. Master is invincible, he showering praise once more. They continued forward. One figure after another appeared, and one after another fell, until suddenly, a colossal form rose ahead, 9 meters tall. Even Ling Han's brows furrowed. As for the Ashura Demon Emperor, his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets in terror. The density of murderous aura here had reached a horrifying level. Rah! A spiritual shockwave surged outward as the giant figure slammed its palm downward. But this time, the attack wasn't merely spiritual, it manifested physically. The ground trembled violently beneath the impact. Ling Han didn't hesitate. There was no point fighting. In a flash, he grabbed the puppet wolf's tail. Shua! Both he and the Asura Demon Emperor vanished into the Black Tower. Boom! The massive palm struck the earth, sending dust and debris soaring into the sky. The giant figure paused. Confusion flickered within its form. Where had its prey gone? Meanwhile, the Black Tower, caught in the shockwave, was swept away like a grain of sand, drifting through the air with the dust. Moments later, Ling Han emerged once more. Without a second thought, he fled. There was no value in fighting these entities. Against demonic beasts, one could at least harvest spiritual meat. But these, they offered nothing, not even a scrap. So why waste effort? Ling Han dashed forward, avoiding conflict wherever possible. When avoidance failed, he struck swiftly, disrupting the aura just enough to escape before it could reform. But the deeper he ventured into the Crimson Land, the stronger the murderous aura became. Soon, even 30-meter-tall figures appeared with alarming frequency. Ling Han didn't dare approach them. Their spiritual attacks rivaled those of Sun Moon tier elites. Even he would be overwhelmed. Thus he avoided them at all costs. And then, something appeared ahead. A mountain. Ling Han halted. His eyes narrowed. No, he murmured. That is no mountain. It was a sacrificial altar. At first glance, its immense size disguised its true nature. But upon closer inspection, its structure revealed itself. A colossal triangular pyramid, towering 3,000 meters high. Each stone slab was larger than a house. Its surface was entirely crimson. Under the dim light of the sky, it resembled a slumbering beast. But what truly revealed its purpose was the smell. Blood. A suffocating, overwhelming stench of blood flooded the air. This was no ordinary slaughter. Not thousands. Not tens of thousands. Millions. At the very least, millions had died here. The stones themselves had not been red originally. They had been stained, dyed by rivers of blood that had flowed endlessly across their surface. And beside the altar, mountains of corpses. They stretched across hundreds of kilometers, piled high in grotesque silence. Seeing this, Ling Han's earlier estimate felt laughably small. Not millions, tens of millions, perhaps more. An entire sea of life had been extinguished here. Ling Han stood in silence, his gaze darkening. What is the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire planning? The wind whispered across the blood-soaked land, but no answer came, only silence and the lingering echo of countless deaths. The heavens thundered as if furious spirits were pounding war drums. Boom, boom, boom. More than a dozen colossal aura figures surged forth like specters born from ancient resentment, surrounding Ling Han from every direction. Their presence alone was enough to crush mountains and shatter souls. In that instant of danger, Ling Han did not hesitate. His figure flickered and vanished into the depths of the Black Tower. The violent impact waves roared past, dragging the invisible Black Tower along with their momentum. By sheer coincidence, or perhaps the will of fate itself, he drifted toward the looming altar. And then he saw them. From the distant haze, a procession approached. Carts. But not ordinary carts. These were prison carts. Each one was massive, towering like iron beasts of war, some even exceeding 10 meters in height. Within them were cages reinforced with cruel craftsmanship, imprisoning creatures of terrifying strength. Demonic beasts snarled and roared, their voices shaking the air. Some unleashed their divine sense in fury, hurling curses like venom into the void. But beasts were not the only captives. There were ordinary animals. And even humans, all were treated the same, like livestock, bound, caged, driven forward, driven toward the altar. Ling Han's gaze darkened. A realization struck him like lightning, a living sacrifice. As the convoy advanced, the surrounding aura figures rushed in again, attempting to crush everything in their path. But the moment those humanoid specters drew near, the carts erupted with brilliance. Divine patterns ignited. Threads of radiant energy interwove across each carriage, forming a dazzling shield of light. Bang, bang, bang! The attacking figures were repelled instantly, their forms collapsing like illusions struck by divine judgment. Ling Han's eyes sharpened. This must be the handiwork of a heavenly body tier elite. Even those aura figures that had reached the peak of the sun-moon tier were shattered with a single strike. Only power at the heavenly body tier could create such overwhelming suppression. Looking closer, Ling Han noticed something crucial. Each cart bore a paper talisman. It was that talisman that glowed, manifesting the divine patterns, weaving protection into existence. The carts rolled forward with fear, unstoppable with aura. The aura figures could do nothing. A spark ignited within Ling Han's mind, a bold idea. Without warning, he emerged from the Black Tower. Wing. Demonic chi surged outward, cloaking his entire body in a dark, sinister aura. His appearance twisted, unrecognizable. Anyone who saw him now would never link him to his true identity. Not now, not ever. With several swift steps, shoo, 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 he closed the distance. Then he leapt, straight onto a prison cart. The cart driver glanced coldly at him, his voice filled with disdain. You are courting death. He didn't even bother to act. Why would he? A mere mountain river tier cultivator daring to approach a cart protected by a heavenly body tier decree? That was nothing more than a fool rushing to his own demise. Even if this cultivator was strange, wrapped in black chi, emanating an eerie presence, what of it? Before absolute power, all anomalies were meaningless. He would be torn apart instantly, reduced to nothing. Yet, the driver blinked. The figure had leapt toward the cart. But where had he gone? He had simply vanished. No blood, no flesh, nothing. The driver frowned, confusion flickering in his eyes. Could it be that the man had been obliterated so completely that not even a trace remained? With the inauspicious aura saturating this place, even remnants of flesh could easily be swallowed and erased. Big Ironhead, did anything happen? A voice called from behind. I saw a dark figure jump towards your cart. Big Ironhead shook his head and snorted. Nothing. Just a mountain river tier fool who probably slipped through. He's already been crushed into dust by His Majesty's decree. Ha ha! The other driver laughed loudly. Trying to break open the prison carts and cause chaos? What a naive idiot. With His Majesty's decree here, no one can do anything. Of course, Big Ironhead replied, already losing interest. The carts continued forward, and the mysterious figure was forgotten inside the cart. Ling Han sat quietly. At the very moment he leapt, he had already retreated into the Black Tower. The tower, drifting like a grain of dust, had slipped directly into the cart itself, untouched, unhindered. The divine light could not interfere with it. Within the cage were over a dozen prisoners. All were demonic beasts of the mountain river tier. A four-eyed tiger snarled with suppressed fury. A beast with the head of a bull and the tail of a serpent hissed violently. A massive golden goat pawed at the ground with trembling limbs. Yet all of them had been forcibly compressed by a secret technique. Their towering forms reduced to the size of ordinary animals. Their cultivation was sealed. Their strength remained, but they could not wield it. Rage burned in their eyes. Despair followed. At this level, demonic beasts possessed intelligence no less than humans. They understood their fate. They were offerings, sacrifices. They roared at first, defiant, furious, unwilling, but gradually silence fell. Hope faded. The carts rolled onward. Soon, they entered beneath the altar, into a vast tunnel carved through the earth. It was wide enough to accommodate the enormous carts, yet its scale was unsettling, as if built to swallow armies whole. The light dimmed. Torches flickered along the walls, but their glow was weak, casting long, trembling shadows that twisted like ghosts. The air grew heavy, oppressive. Then the tunnel ended, and the scene beyond unfolded like a nightmare. The interior of the altar was hollow. On three sides rose countless prison cells, layered upon each other like a labyrinth of suffering. They spiraled upward from the lowest depths to heights unseen, densely packed, endlessly repeating. Most cells were occupants, demonic beasts, all imprisoned. Some cells empty for now. At the very bottom, the earth had been carved away, and what remained was a lake of blood. Bright red, endless. Even within the safety of the Black Tower, Ling Han could almost smell it, the thick, suffocating stench of slaughter. The sheer volume of blood was unimaginable. Even if the pit was shallow, filling it to such an extent required countless lives. No wonder the outside world was littered with corpses. This was no ordinary killing. This was massacre. Within the blood lake, faint light shimmered, cold, eerie, and chilling to the bone. Then, tong, the surface exploded. A massive corpse was hurled down from above, a demonic beast, head severed. Its body struck the lake, sending ripples across the crimson surface. Moments later, someone retrieved the corpse, dragged it aside, as if it were nothing, as if it were refuse. The process continued. Prison cells were opened. New arrivals, both human and beast, were dragged inside and locked away. Meanwhile, corpses were piled into carts, to be transported out, to be discarded. Ling Han moved swiftly, taking advantage of the chaos. He slipped out of the cart and vanished once more into the Black Tower, hiding as he observed. The slaughter did not stop. Screams echoed. Bodies fell, splash after splash. New prisoners howled in fury, slamming against iron bars, eyes burning with hatred. But the older captives were silent, broken. The carts came and went. First batch, second batch, third batch, endless. They brought sacrifices. They carried away corpses. Aside from the screams and the splashing of blood, the altar was eerily quiet. Patrolling cultivators moved along each level, but the structure was vast beyond reason. Completing a single patrol required immense time. Ling Han's thoughts moved swiftly, calculating, waiting, then opportunity. As a patrolling cultivator passed by his level, Ling Han struck. He emerged instantly from the Black Tower. His hand shot out. The man was caught off guard, eyes widening in shock. He spun, throwing a hurried punch, but in his panic he could only muster less than 30% of his true strength. Wing. Ling Han activated the 7-kill subduing soul technique. The man didn't even have time to groan. His consciousness shattered. His body collapsed. At that precise moment, Ling Han's hand gripped his neck and, with a single thought, dragged him into the Black Tower. Inside, Ling Han pressed him down. A surge of origin power flowed. The man gasped, awakening abruptly. "How dare you?" he roared instantly, rage erupting as he tried to shout. "There's an enemy!" His voice cut off. Because he realized something. He was no longer in the altar. Shock flooded his face. Where was this place? How long had he been unconscious? Before he could react further, a terrifying presence appeared. The Asura Demon Emperor. Its form loomed like a nightmare incarnate, its mouth opening to reveal rows of razor-sharp fangs. Those fangs brushed against the man's face. Cold and merciless, a sinister voice echoed. "My master has questions for you." The Demon Emperor's eyes gleamed with hunger. "You will answer obediently, or I will devour you." And in that moment, it was undeniable. For such work, the Asura Demon Emperor was perfectly suited.